Now it's Rocky Ledge Water Main Project update. Matt, Kristie,
I would like to, first I'd like to thank you for having us, and I'd like to give a quick overview and then turn over some of the details of our program, the 10+ page document that we supplied to you guys. I'm going to turn over some of the questions to our engineer, Kristie Wagner. So I have a brief spiel here. I promise won't take too long to get through, but it'll at least get everybody on the same page with the background story. And I'm going to, for the most part, read my own notes here. So I know you folks are familiar with this project. We've talked to you about it before, but here's a chance to supply you with an actual well thought out program. Also, I can give you an overview, current status. There's some other folks here in the room that will be able to jump in and kind of point out how critical we believe this program has been. So the Rocky Ledge area, we called it a needs area, we called it a study area. It actually includes 122 properties. It fits on 2 of these maps in our facilities plan. It's on a small map attached to the package that you have. But I think it's pretty important for everyone to take a look at these 2 maps because you've heard the words Rocky Ledge over and over and over again, and that's one image you have in your head. But that's just a name that got attached to these 3 chunks of neighborhoods here that happen to have similar issues. And this is a very unique study area compared to the other areas that we've looked at in town.
If I could, for reference here, we've got Route 81 here. This is the northern and southern map. This is the current high school site. So we've got Rocky Ledge Drive, Oakwood Lane, and then going south from there, it includes Margot Lane, Woodland Drive, and Happy Acres. These are all the roads on the west side of Route 81 in the vicinity of the high school.
That includes that kind of a dirt road that goes in all the way back.
That's Margot, yes, that's Margot. Yeah, the only one that skips is Stevens Court, which is a newer development with larger lots. Doesn't have the same issues as the others.
Great, thanks. No, I think it's crucial for all of us to understand what we're talking about here. It's not one little loop of a neighborhood. It's actually 3 pieces that are geographically and geologically similar, have a similar development history also. So, as a means of background, I believe you folks are familiar with the 1997 consent order that the town entered into with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection that requires that a community pollution problem be addressed. It required this facilities plan that the town's been working on and off for quite a long time, that we actually have finished and in the hands of the Connecticut DEP for review at the moment. We have a final copy in their hands. This isn't a drafty draft, early draft. They have our best work right now. It is our opinion from our research that the town has a responsibility, at least in part, because we allowed development to take place in the way that it did. You can tell from the map that we're talking about generally small lots with wells and septic, and pretty hard pressed to have the 75 feet separation distance between your well and your neighbor's septic, your well and your own septic, and vice versa. And as you know, the Maine would point out that we have a lot of shallow depth of bedrock up there, which doesn't leave a lot of separation distance between bedrock or groundwater for that matter. So all those things together are sort of a perfect storm. The way that we've demonstrated that is with some well water testing. We've had a few rounds of well water testing that were offered. CRAD offered well water testing, and we as the WPCC offered well water testing to anybody who would take it. And we ended up with a large percentage of takers. And we weren't very surprised with what we found, because these are the same complaints that folks living up in that area have had for decades. And that is that the drinking water quality is not great. There's been some water quality violations that have included high levels of nitrates, presence of coliform bacteria, and some corrosivity issues, including low pH. And the probable cause is, like we said, the geology, the septic systems and the wells all coming together to create a problem. And those laboratory parameters that we look for are just indicators that there could be worse stuff in the water. These are just the ones that you typically test for portability, and they're borderline portable up there. And folks have lots of problems. You know, it's in the policy, but folks have lots of problems up there that are addressed in our program and that are caused by this condition, which was, you know, allowed to take place, and now it's part of our order. As I pointed out earlier, it's unique compared to other study areas due to this drinking water quality issue. That really makes this one jump out as different. Ultimately, we got the DEP through negotiations with them to agree to consider this water main project versus sewer. The water main project would be approximately half the cost of a sewer project up there, and it solves the water problem. This was negotiated with the DEP as meeting the terms of the consent order, and is in our facilities plan as being the decided upon solution for up there. It doesn't mean that these folks aren't going to have to update their septic systems like the rest of us, but it does take this immediate threat to their health away, and it does satisfy that chunk of the consent order. Let's see. A good thing about this project is that it's eligible for funding through the state's Drinking Water State Revolving Fund that is approved and administered by the State Department of Health. They have approved this project, and we've qualified for funding at a 2% rate for 20 years for the project, which I believe is very competitive, and you know it took a bit of work, but we were able to make that happen. At this time, I don't know how up to speed you guys are, but we have the actual design of the project essentially complete. So that's a big deal. This isn't like the rest of our plan, which is at planning stage. This piece is actually at design stage. And the plan includes the work both in the public highway, the roads, and the work on the private property to connect the residents to the water supply. And if you have any questions regarding that, Pete can get to that once I wrap up my soliloquy here. So let's see. As you know, a few months ago, this was part of an appropriations package, and it was ultimately removed because there were a lot of questions that you folks had, and we got to work in earnest and seriously with our consultant, Kristie Wagner from CDM Smith, and sub-consultant, and as a commission ourselves, we went back and forth. We took questions that you folks have provided us throughout the years and sat down, not the latest questions, but most of the questions, and used those to develop this policy and this program that we have in front of you. And we also didn't reinvent the wheel. We looked at other similar programs throughout the state, and you'll notice that it has an interesting structure to it. So it's put together an outline, and the meat of it is in the question and answer section, and you'll see that it talks about regulatory, grab it in front of me. Essentially, we break it down to benefits to these homeowners, benefits to the town, and break each of those subjects down by regulatory compliance, public health and safety, and neighbors helping neighbors. And those are the three sections that we do for each of those areas. I hope you folks have a chance to look at this, and I'm glad to see we have a lot of experts here in the room tonight that could probably help us out. Right now, this project is currently, we are working backwards from this fall's election date to get all of our ducks in a row and get the town educated and public hearings held, and meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to show you guys what we have done for the town of Clinton to answer the questions that were put before us. It's the town project, and WPCC has done their work, in my opinion. And Board of Selectmen has a responsibility in our eyes for making some big decisions regarding financing. But what we've done is we've put together not exactly a recommendation, but some thought processes that we think will help you understand what we went through to spell out how this project would play out and how it could be paid for. All right, well, I think at this point I'd like to ask Kristie to walk us through the plan. We're not going to go page by page through 10 pages, but we'd like to.
You can if you want to.
We can if you folks are interested. But we think it's important to get into the financial part of it as quickly as possible, so we can get your feedback.
So one thing that Nat touched on that I wanted to emphasize is the State Department of Public Health State Revolving Fund financing. The project was slated to be part of their 16-17 funding, assuming that the bonds would have passed previously to now. It took some work, but between Mr. Farmer, Mr. Ness, and the PCC putting together a response to basically why was the project delayed, the Department of Public Health agreed to basically continue the funding into next year's fiscal year. So the project is still eligible. If it's delayed further, there's no guarantee that the DPH funding will still be available. I'll also mention 16-17, DPH had a little bit of grant money available. It's never guaranteed. Their program is a little different than DEP's program. But in 16-17, there was a little bit of grant money that could have been applied to the project, and we're certainly hopeful that they might also have some in 17-18. But at the moment, we're still on the list for whatever funding is available from DPH. So as Matt mentioned, they've got roughly 10 pages of question and answer type things in here that we certainly hope have addressed most of the concerns that have been raised to date. But the one thing that we wanted and expected to focus on here tonight, notwithstanding any other questions, was kind of just an overview of the project costs and how they could be paid for. As Matt indicated, it's not necessarily a final recommendation or a decision from the Water Pollution Control Commission, but more a feeling and a suggestion for how they think it's palatable. Board of Selectmen, we met with last week, and they seem to generally agree with the thought process here, so I wanted to lay it out. This table is on, I think it's the last page of your handout. It's essentially the same as this, although I changed the colors on a couple of these lines to make it a little bit easier to look at. But basically, the project can be looked at, for simplicity, we broke it into two pieces. There's the work that has to be done in each private property to connect each homeowner into the water main. I know that's kind of the second part. I have it as part one here for discussion purposes. So that includes connecting from the street, the line in the street into people's homes, making plumbing modifications in their homes, abandoning their well. That's it in a nutshell. So the estimate for that is roughly $11,000 per property. That's probably a little on the high side. We certainly hope so. I think many properties will be less than that, but as the name implies, there could be areas where we hit rock. There could be areas that are difficult. Could be some properties that need some substantial rework in their interior plumbing. So this hopes to be a reasonably conservative estimate. That portion, I think the WPCC feeling and the Board of Selectmen feeling is that the right thing is for the homeowners to pay that portion. It is the work on their property. It should be largely paid by them. At the moment, it's intended to be financed by the town as part of the entire project to allow a way to assist homeowners in coming up with that chunk of money.
And make sure it happens.
And make sure it happens, correct. That's very important. That hasn't been touched on yet. Part of the consent order resolution of this is basically to get everyone to connect. Maybe you'll never get everyone, but if you run the water main up there and you only get 50 people to connect, that really doesn't solve the community pollution problem. We need everyone to connect in order to make this viable and improve the public health situation that exists up there. So the way to do that is to make it as easy as possible, as reasonable as possible for people to connect during this program. So with that said, the homeowners are going to be left with a bill on the order of $11,000 apiece. There is a possibility the STEEP grant, I'm assuming everyone here is familiar in general with the STEEP grants. It has been applied for by the town for this coming year, and that money, if obtained, if the grant is received, could be applied towards these individual on-lot costs to defray the cost of the homeowners. It doesn't have to be, it also could be applied to the project as a whole, and that's a decision for this board and the Board of Selectmen to make. But that roughly puts the range of homeowner costs for the on-lot work somewhere between $7,000 and $11,000, give or take, depending on exactly the type of work that's done on those properties. So that's part one, and that is the part that the boards currently seem to think should be paid for by the homeowners themselves. The other part two, is basically the rest of the project. All of the water main installation, rock excavation, engineering oversight, policing, paving, everything like that has to be done as part of the construction project. That's somewhere on the order of a $3.6 million undertaking. Again, hoping that's a little bit high, but I think it's in the right range. So it's a substantial project. I think we certainly understand that. We are currently expecting a substantial contribution from Connecticut Water Company. That has been out there for a while, pushing them to try to get that number. Nobody knows what that number is at the moment. I've got these two tables. Assume, if you look at the first line, Connecticut Water Company contribution of $500,000 and a Connecticut Water Company contribution of $1 million. I think we're really hoping, and we have reason to think it might be more towards that $1 million number. So just for simplicity here, we'll talk with that $1 million number. Again, these are parallel tables, just with two different top lines, if you will. So then you're left with something like a $2.6 million project for the town to pay back. Then comes the big question, is who's responsible for paying that? And there's certainly different schools of thought on this. We showed two different scenarios here. Basically, the town paying 75% and the homeowners paying 25%, or the town paying 100%. The scenario of the town pays 75% would work out to, if these are roughly the right bid numbers, would work out to a town share of about $1.95 million and a town annual payment of around $120,000 per year. This would also require an additional contribution by the homeowners on top of their on-lot costs, somewhere in the order of $5,000 to $5,500 per year, or an additional $300 to $400 per year per homeowner. The other option is that town pays 100%. Town share is about that $2.6 million number, and the town annual payment, 2%, 20 years, is in the range of $160,000.
So just to understand, the proposal is that there's no proposal that they pay it all. It's either we're paying 100% or they're paying 25%?
Yeah, and I think there's a few reasons for that. First, and people can jump in and help me out on this, but
It's
a community.
It's not,
Yeah.
John, don't misinterpret what's being said.
No, I just wanted to get
It's
clear.
really, the Board of Selectmen really are ultimately the ones that are gonna do it.
Because in this, the way I was reading this, it sounded to me as if they were paying for it.
The on-lot costs.
On-lot cost,
Definitely.
from the street in.
Okay, got it.
From the
That's my
street to the home, right?
Even that's questionable.
I'll elaborate on that a little bit because I know that it's something that's on people's mind. I understand it from the perspective of someone who doesn't live in the neighborhood. There are a couple of things. If these costs were just split among the homeowners, I think we'd be looking, I'm not even sure if I can do that number in my head right now, something like $20,000 to $25,000 per home, which is probably something that's not defensible in terms of an added value to the home. It's the regulations on the water side are a little different than sewer, but there are parallels and reasonable comparisons to make. On the sewer side, regulations say that they call it a benefit assessment, basically the homeowner paying back what it costs to do the infrastructure. It has to be capped at what the increase in property value is. And it's always an estimate, nobody can say exactly how much that adds. But saying that the water project adds $20-something thousand to property value, when the property value is average $150,000 to $200,000, it's probably not going to be accepted. The other part of it, and the more important part I think the WPCC thinks is, it's a community health problem, it's a community pollution problem, it's part of the town's consent order with DEP, and the town is responsible for trying to do something to work towards complying with the consent order. So I think we've shown that this is the most feasible, most economical, best solution for public health. So, you know, the presentation at this point is to, help me out here. The other boards, the Board of Selectmen and WPCC, from our discussions, are leaning towards having the town help out as much as possible, because it's just, you know, 11,000 or so for the on-lot costs on top of the additional rest of the project cost is likely just not feasible for folks. So it's, you know, just to get clean water. Again, this is not a luxury item. This is, it's a public health issue. So I hope that was clear enough. I know there's a lot on here, but that's been the thought process and the, you know, the current thinking.
Does that,
Well,
does that make sense, folks? Can you
well, we'll
kind
let
of
you,
follow the matrix?
yes,
I'm sorry.
and we'll let you finish your presentation, and we'll ask questions at the end if you're done.
Actually, that was the bulk of what I want to talk about, unless people want to talk about other specific questions and answers, but the dollars were where we
Yeah,
thought.
we can walk through some of the questions and answers, because I imagine that,
Well, let us ask the
No
questions.
sense in walking through what we don't have questions on, right?
Okay, I'll start.
We're prepared to ask
let
questions.
them rip, and then I'll look through the table of contents and try to find what the answers are.
Can we guarantee that after providing water to this area, will the town be relieved of any sewage liabilities?
DEP wrote a letter approving the concept here and saying that it's the right answer for the Rocky Ledge area. It does not necessarily relieve the need for future septic upgrades as anywhere else in town would require if needed, but it does satisfy the consent order, and sewers are no longer on the table for Rocky Ledge.
Thank you.
All of the different study areas in town are going to be covered under a decentralized wastewater management area, and those areas are going to have set standards for how they're handled going into the future. And those areas, if you can picture previous maps that we brought in here, were large yellow areas that covered big, huge chunks of the town, and we have them whittled down to areas that can be handled. So up in that area, you know, we've done some research that shows that at least, you know, from a GIS standpoint and the known soil standpoint, that code compliant systems, septic systems can be laid out on each of these properties if you take out that 75-foot separating distance. So that's what makes the whole thing work.
The 75-foot also would allow opportunity for some sizable expansions. You no longer have a footprint. And I think when you start to look at issues of what people's expectations of what was built there, and you know, those are issues that are going to come and pop, because no longer is the you know, that going to be as much as an issue.
They're not squeezed as much as they are.
You still need to, you know, do the evidence. But my question is a couple questions, and you know, mine. You know, I don't understand why only 48 people took us up on the test.
I
went door to door.
I have thoughts. I didn't talk to everyone. I think some people were afraid that the local health district would come in and shut off their water, which doesn't really happen, but it's the fear that people are gonna be held.
A follow-up to that question, I don't know if we've done this inventory. How many people are renting from someone else in there? Is that going to answer some of that too? Do we know?
I guess I certainly don't have the statistic. I didn't get the sense that there were a lot, though. I think I saw a lot of young families and a lot of people who have been there for a long time.
The other issue is pressure reducing valves are probably going to be needed, because what you end up with is the well probably is delivering maybe 50 pounds of pressure. If you check your pressure when you put this tap into this water main, you're going to be excess of 100 pounds.
We can put restrictors on it.
Yeah, well, are we going to restrict the whole district, or is each house is going to have to restrict themselves? Which is, you know, that's a sizable cost, so it's there. The other thing is I'm concerned is if I was one of the people up there, you're talking about $11,000 cost. Now, if I'm down where I talked about where that dirt road is, I don't think there's ledge down there. I think that's probably sandy, pretty easy to dig. And am I going to have to pay, you know, is everybody going to have to pay $11,000 towards that cost? Because I think as a resident, you know, and I sympathize with the problems of trying to have a community assessment type of a thing.
Yeah.
That I agree with. That's the
That
main.
$11,000 was a light estimate
Okay, but what I'm
Each
saying,
lot's gonna be different.
I don't think you do a community assessment for your water tank. I agree with you. I think when you start doing a community assessment on what's
We're not,
mine.
that's what I'm telling you, we're not.
Oh, okay, but that's not the way it's
Don't
done.
confuse that. The 11,000 was put in there as a budget figure. Every lot is gonna be different, and the way the
Okay, all
program,
right.
the way the program will be handled is, the town will actually offer the bids out, so that the resident has a right to choose what contractor they want, based on a bid that covers almost every contingency. So many linear feet, and then they will actually pay for that portion of the project.
Right.
Some lots may be a little bit more, some may be a little, hopefully a lot less. Working with the water company to change the way the system is designed from the street in, to really minimize the cost going into the house. So, no, that's just that was done for a budgetary purpose.
One final, I'll let some other people ask questions here. Connecticut Water Company, you know, you're looking at $500,000, $1 million, right? Why can't we say to them, if I have 120 people connect, I get this. If I get 60 people, I get this. If I got 20 people, I get this. And nail them down, because I'll tell you one thing, I won't turn around, once you do it, they ain't gonna
We
do
can
it.
answer that.
We have.
All right.
I have the answers.
Pete and I just met with the Connecticut Water Company executives. And they're gonna give us a matrix based on the number of people hooking up, from the max to a middle to a low.
But you need to understand, this is a new law that allows them to actually contribute to the water main. And so we, Mulberry Point, Guilford, and Clinton will be the test points to go through PURA, which is the Public Utility Control Commission of the state, in terms of the amount of money that they're going to be allowed to supply the project. Up until that point, that law passed, the indications to us were 200,000 would be a lot. I'm not going to tell you what the figures are that we've talked about, but they're significant. So because they are working with PURA at the same time, they're working with Guilford and working with us, this all has to be approved up at the state. So they're putting all those
So
things.
Guilford's also looking for this kind of reimbursement.
Absolutely. At Mulberry Point, which has been a project that's been in planning for 9 years. So what's going to happen is they're using the same matrix with us that they're using with Guilford. And then they're going to go, and they're happy we're involved because it gives them a second test point and more information for the public utilities. So what'll happen is they're doing it if we have 100 people hook up, 70 people hook up, 121 people hook up. They'll give you the matrix. That'll give you the levels as you get those people signed up.
Owner, any?
Yes, well, I have less of a question, more of a statement. I'm looking at the April 12th, 2017 minutes of the Board of Selectmen, and the $500,000 steep grant that was applied for the Rocky Ledge Water Main project was denied.
We reapplied.
I know you reapplied, but I think it should be spoken that the state has already said, no, that's not, we're not interested in that project. I don't think everybody knew that. The other part of this,
That's all right.
I looked at sales up there on all these streets for the past year, and the average house is, as Kristie mentioned, about $170,000, $79,000. They pay about $3,000 to $4,000 in taxes. Now they're going to pay $11,000 a year on top. One time. Well, that's from.
No, nobody.
20
And the other statement is, this improves, I totally appreciate the hard work you've done and realize how important it is to have fresh water in homes. But this in no way addresses groundwater contamination because the septics are failing. That's why there's groundwater contamination, and there's no rule on earth that can say, Mister, unless your septic is flowing down the street, you have to upgrade your system. And an engineered system can be 30, maybe I've had them in Killing worth $50,000 if there's ledge. That's a third of the value of these homes. That's all, that's the statement.
Well, I think it's important that we share the facts a little bit differently. The $11,000 was an estimate. The Board of Selectmen have to make a decision as to how they're going to actually go talk with the homeowner, how they're going to assess the homes on that, number one. Number two, you won't be able to do anything with the septic systems up there as long as there's wells on the property. So the discussion is either you supply the water and allow the homeowners to correct groundwater problems, or you don't, and then basically the lots become condemned. And it would be the town that would probably be doing the condemning. So,
And these aren't the worst septic systems.
and these are in town, so.
These aren't the ones that are breaking out, these are just the ones where.
You know, you gotta afford, well, wait a minute, you said, you gotta afford the opportunity
Right.
for people to correct problems up there, which are not a whole, I don't know how many are identified, I don't think it's a whole lot at this point.
And then why is it groundwater?
But, well, the groundwater is polluted in every neighborhood in town. Don't forget Willow Lane, don't forget all Willow Lane has public water, there's a number of failed septic systems up in that area.
But in my memory, we've never condemned a house because of failed septic.
No, but I'm saying if you can't repair the septic system and if it's in a compliant area, then what do? I'll tell you what Saybrook's had to do.
Right, they have
Yeah,
individual
well, and
systems.
it's cost them a fortune, so you know what? You have to,
Individual homeowners, make them, not the town, not the property, not the whole town.
correct,
Yes.
but they're in the same situation. No, they don't have a lot that's capable of supporting.
Old Saybrook is on the tax base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The difference here, though, again, it's complicated by the fact that the drinking water is also a problem. You're right that there are some lots up there that have specific septic problems, but it's compounded by the fact that people are also consuming that water.
That makes it unique for all of our needs areas. There might be a well here or there throughout our needs areas, but this one up here is.
So you can essentially put sewers up there and still have contaminated wells at the end.
Yeah, there are other issues in their water besides just the septic.
So
There's the location.
you could spend $8 million putting a sewer and a treatment and a forced main in, which is what you would have to do up there, and you would still have contaminated wells. It still might be at some point.
There's some metals and some.
So, I mean,
Kirk, anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the first of how many projects that you're contemplating. You have at least 3 more, I believe, that add up to about 60 or 70,000, $70 million. And isn't this going to set the precedent for how future projects are funded? How much of it's going to be funded by the town, how much is going to be funded by the property owner?
It may, but I think this is a unique piece up here. Kristie, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree, I think it may, and I understand that people think that, and even I just did it, I was comparing water versus sewer regs. The difference is that Clean Water Fund, meaning the sewer side, has specific regulations written for how projects can be paid for within towns. So there's the concept of the benefit assessment is specifically written in the clean water regs. It's not written in any drinking water regs. The town has an ordinance about drinking water that says essentially, I'm not going to quote it, but it says essentially that when the town extends a water main, it can recoup the cost from the residents, except it allows an out basically in the case of a community pollution problem. It doesn't say you can or can't there, but it basically says that that's a different situation, you have to look at it differently. So this is a community pollution problem, so the town regs essentially allows the town to decide how best to pay for this problem.
Right, well, the section 509.1 that's quoted in there says that the reimbursement may be waived.
Right.
So it doesn't say will be waived, it
Right.
doesn't say shall be waived. So it's clearly very much at our discretion. Do we have any idea what it costs those homeowners a year to operate their wells? I mean, certainly when you put water in.
Water's not free. Yeah.
Right, but when you put water in, they're paying something to pump water.
Sure.
And do we have any idea how much money we would relieve them from, incurring because of the wells they have?
I don't have those numbers.
They will get a break on their homeowner's insurance. And they also will have fire hydrants, which will give them fire protection.
Right, which would also lower the, I mean, I would like to see a cost benefit analysis for the owners, because I think if you're going to say to the owners, first of all, your property value is going to go up. Secondly, you're not going to be pumping water. Third, you're going to have fire hydrants, which provide safety, but also probably lower your insurance costs. But when you put all that together, I mean, at some point you say, gee, I actually think this is something you ought to pay more of, and the taxpayers ought to pay less of. And until you've done that analysis, I don't think you can make the case that needs to be made to the homeowners.
Yeah, those are some good questions, we appreciate that. This use of letters.
How many, does anyone know how many hydrants we currently have?
Ryan,
In town.
We're just shy of 400, and I believe a meeting with the water company and CDM said we're looking to approve to at least 24 additional.
Yeah, I think 24 is the right number, yeah.
For this?
For that.
For this, right.
24.
So this is 24 more on top of
That's one for every 5 houses.
24.
something under 400. Now, we're currently paying $380 some odd thousand a year for water and hydrant. Does that go to the Connecticut Water Company? I mean, who gets that money? What is that?
So the entire system, once it's installed, will become property of the Connecticut Water Companies, for what I know, so yes, your budget for that is going to increase.
Right, but that 380 some odd thousand we currently pay goes to the Connecticut Water Company. So this would be 24 divided by 400. It's not a big percentage increase, but they'll get that revenue. Plus, they'll get the revenue. I looked at their annual report. They get about 200%. They get about $250 a year from each customer, according to their. So that's about $30,000 if you had 100% of the people signing up. But if you only had, you had less than 40% of them willing to even have their wells tested, should be kind of a tell as to how much interest. I mean, this looks to me like you're going to be pushing a noodle as far as the homeowner is concerned. If that's the kind of response, and I understand the fear that they may have, but I just don't know that you're going to get the cooperation that you're going to need to make this thing really work. I'm not convinced of that. The other one is you currently have public water going to other needs areas, if I'm not mistaken. And it hasn't solved their problem, clearly, right? So, the question is, when this is all said and done, and we still have failing septics up there, are we at some point in the future going to find ourselves saying, oh, now we got another $8 million project on top of this?
The issues related to the septics in the other needs areas are different. For example, in the downtown area and part of the coastal area, you've got extremely small lots that don't have room for code compliant systems no matter what, even without the well. Up here, even though it's rocky ledge and the geology is difficult, it's not impossible, and with enough room, we actually did the work to lay out potential code compliant system areas on just about every property. So the geology here, well, like I said, while difficult, is not, not completely limiting, and I don't foresee a situation where you would also require sewers up here. I think they just need the space to be able to upgrade the septics. It's not the same as some of the other needs areas.
And the use of their
Fair
water,
question.
yeah, the use of their water is going to need to be controlled in the ways that it's already controlled throughout town through, you can't have 18 bedrooms. And, it's going to need to be controlled to some degree.
And they're going to pay for their water now.
Right, they pay for the water, but they're paying to pump water now. I mean,
Right.
part of this is to understand, how much they're going to save
Right.
on insurance and electricity and
Well
the
pump
operating
replacement,
costs.
well replacement.
All of that, yeah. So, I mean,
That's last year's well pumps, that's
Right.
not a lot.
yeah, but you put it, at least you know what it
But
is.
they could be buying bottled water, because if I lived up there, I wouldn't be drinking my water.
Right, and a lot of them treatment systems, right?
We have treatment systems and all kinds of stuff.
There's a lot of, we met with a lot of these folks, they've come to our meetings en masse, we've had big groups come to our meetings. And they hear their stories that are based on one thing, and one thing only, is, they're not, it's not like when we meet with the folks from Evergreen Woods that are complaining about their existence over there being controlled by the landlords. Up here, it's one issue, and that's their water, and all the trouble it's caused them. And it's time and time again, and they're very fatigued by that. I imagine there's folks up there that have resorted to just bottled water, and there's folks that probably aren't even keeping up the treatment systems anymore because it costs a lot to treat that water up there. And I know from, testing water all throughout the town as part of my profession that everyone knows the neutral pH of water is 7. Up there it's in 5.8, 5.9 range, and that's not a linear scale either. So that's some rough water.
And the other issue is the zoning, those are realtor, that most banks now require a well justice like approximately.
Right.
The state of Connecticut requires it when we buy a house.
So, the problem is up there now, that they're gonna, to your point, this will eliminate that whole issue that they have up there.
But, yeah, the houses may not have a market value right now because of that, because people won't buy, I mean, the cost of doing, what's the ledger model that you refer to in the assessment, the benefit assessment?
There are some things in here that were notes to the commission and to each other for continuation. Ledyard had a similar ordinance that they developed, or a similar policy that they developed that we wanted to look at for the, on the financial piece of it. I don't think it all made it in here, that's all.
So is that something we can get access to?
I think we found the ordinance itself online, if I remember correctly, I just don't, it's been a little while.
I think it was fairly simple.
Right.
I think it was based on, frontage. I think their model was a benefit assessment based on frontage. Does that sound familiar?
I think that one was. We found a handful.
Once we did the math of, what the project was gonna cost the homeowner for these two different chunks, and start dividing that up by the month, you start looking at a monthly nut that's starting to become, pretty expensive. So I don't know if it's gonna be our formal recommendation that a benefit assessment be used. But there's also the case that this water main is gonna be passing other properties in town. So, it's not completely off the table to invoke our own statute and try to recover those costs.
Thank you.
The other areas of town that have Connecticut Water Company, have taxpayers subsidized putting in those water mains in other parts of town?
We tried very hard to find that.
When they purchased the land, like a development as a water main as part of their purchase, if you could go back and prove it, but the only thing we've done is, I think, down on Beach Road is really the only one that I'm aware of, but you
Well,
didn't,
we found partial information on that.
partial
Yeah, and
information,
all-
but not everything, yeah.
What we found on that one for Beach Road was that the homeowners paid something like $2,000 a piece towards the cost, and that was back in the late 80s.
Wasn't a lot.
But not the
But the
tax-
one to hook up
Yeah.
after the fact, the hook up after the fact was very expensive, if I remember right.
Right,
How about
Cedar Island?
But the taxpayers, have the taxpayers ever subsidized? I understand the homeowners along the way paying something, but have the taxpayers ever been asked to subsidize putting in water?
Yeah,
I think for Beach Road, they
Beach
must
Road
have,
did.
because
The
they're,
taxpayers paid, subsidized it.
right.
So there's some precedent for that?
There is, and I think what we couldn't find on Beach Road was what the total cost was versus what the homeowners and taxpayers paid, but we found limited information in the town.
But we
file.
could, to get some more information about
I
it.
don't know if you can, because we couldn't find very much, it's
How about
Probably
Cedar Island?
Huh?
Cedar Island was done about, what, 10 years ago? 15 years
Cedar
ago?
Island, when they took the water across the harbor,
Yeah.
I think that was paid for by Cedar Island.
Well, it'd be
I
nice-
remember.
it'd be nice to look at it.
I think it was,
But I think we're setting a precedent here, and we ought to understand the ramifications. I mean, the 118 or whatever thousand, 159,000, whatever it is a
But
year.
you're not
It's peanuts.
running water in there just to run water to a location.
Yeah, so it's different than
It's
all
different.
those other projects.
It's different than all those other
It's a hard
projects.
one to wrap your head
You're
around.
either gonna put sewers in there, or you're gonna put fresh water in there.
Yeah, the question is who pays for it. It's not a question. the
I
question-
agree with you, but
You know,
I
and this is
think,
certainly the better solution, I agree with
Yes.
you. The question is this a precedent we want to set that we're paying, that the taxpayers of Clinton are subsidizing water
It's really
mains?
our best precedent.
there's no precedent for this particular type of situation where you go in and put a water main in to mitigate a order. I suppose somebody can go back and say, you use the same formula you use for sewers to figure it out.
Right, but
Which
the
is
order doesn't,
probably,
yeah, the order doesn't say that the taxpayers have to pay for it.
well, but you have to pay for the sewers. I mean, you can't, what you're saying is, okay, so you don't want to pay for a water main, so we'll pay for the sewers, because we'll have to pay for those.
Well, the other possibility is to create a sewer district, as other towns do,
Well, I'm
and do
not-
it through that district rather than have the whole town solve it.
No, that's where the Clean Water Fund regulation about the benefit assessments, where I mentioned before, it caps it at the increase in property value. That, in almost every case, except back in the 70s when the federal government was paying for almost everything, Many new construction sewer projects these days end up with a portion of it being put on the tax base because that benefit assessment cap is not enough to pay for the entire project, so the town ends up having to fund it. And that's very clearly spelled out, like I said, in the sewer regs, the state clean water regs. There's just not an applicable regulation on the water side.
I
So
think-
the parallels.
I think an analogy has to be this community pollution problem, similar to having homes around a brownfield site. You know, homes around a brownfield site have been impacted by, you know, a responsible party. In this town, you know, part of that responsible party is us, the town, because we allowed, through our lack of regulations and our lack of potentially paying attention, we allowed this development to go in the way it did. So therefore, you know, yeah, it's similar to the landfill, it's similar to
This is private.
Durham manufacturing, you know, you got a bunch of people who, through no, a lot of them through no fault of their own, not because they're not taking care of their septic system, because it's just a bad system. we'll call it.
The landfill is public property, this is private property, so I don't think.
Public, we were saying a public source, you know, that this was created in part by the town.
Doug, go ahead. Yes, question.
I think there's a part of the cost that we're not addressing. And who is going to handle dealing with 120 homeowners and accounting for anything and everything that has to go on with this project?
The idea is to have this be covered.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sort of looking at it,
I mean, we're gonna hire people to do that, because you have to do that.
We have to account for this.
Oh, we have to account for everything, right to
And we have to get contracts. We have
Yeah,
legal
right,
people.
right. Oh, yeah, you have to go out the bid on everything, you gotta go right to the penny, everything's gotta follow the regulations for,
So it doesn't fall on your shoulders, it falls on Janet's shoulders.
no. Jan knows nothing about, no offense, I like Jan, but she knows nothing about construction contracts.
No, but she has to account for what's going on.
Well, we'll have to account to her, and she'll have to be part of that process, yes.
Right,
This
so
is
how
like-
much more work is that with 120
During the
line items that have to be
Pardon?
There's
dealt with?
the numbers for the on-lot work and for engineering included a reasonable allowance for that. There will also be some.
No, they'll all have to be
but-
tracked. For instance, what you're asking is, we go to a lot, how are we gonna know how much it costs us to do it? And as I said to you, the town is actually gonna bid that. And we may have 2 or 3 contractors that do it. And then the contractors will be supervised by the town.
Right.
But there'll be unit costs, and then everything will be measured,
Right.
and will be recorded, and will be verified before the bill is paid. And then once, that's all the official information you have to do, everything that we do.
Then it goes to
It's no
Janet to
different than
be
the federal
paid, right?
bridge program, no different than the state bridge program, no different. So you have an account, and everything has to be approved by the engineers, has to be approved by the water company if they're contributing, so it's a very
Isn't that a
complicated.
lot of moving parts though?
It's got a lot of moving parts.
With 120 different clients?
Well, you can
Not
say that,
122
you
different
can say
projects.
that about anything we do,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I mean, 126 clients is no different than anything else we do. Like I said, you're gonna have a per lot cost, has to be tracked, has to be taken care of. And you know, we'll have to hire some support to do that.
Right.
Other than our engineering and our site supervisors. But-
So, and you're saying some of that cost is built in here?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
time in the engineering budget for full-time inspection, which would include oversight of that
Yeah.
work and tracking, yes, this one was 122 feet and the interior costs followed this model. So that tracking, I think it'll be a partnership between, you know, the engineer and DPW to track that, but the costs for the consulting services associated with that are included.
But yes, there are other reports. Well, that's why you're really gonna use cost.
Are the cost of police overtime and traffic control included in?
There are policing costs are included.
And have you received the opinion of counsel from the WPCC attorney confirming the citation or possible penalty?
No, that's how I read the state reg. There, like I said, this is still working draft. I just wanted the attorney to confirm that I referenced the correct regulation.
Those are notes to ourselves, we left them in there to show you that that's not 100% answered.
Lee, or anything?
No, I mean, this seems like something that needs to be addressed. I mean, obviously it needs to be addressed, but it's been lingering for so long. I mean, this is public safety, it seems to me. It's public drinking water. It's like a necessity, I don't understand. It has to be taken care of. So we either do one or the other. This seems like the lesser of two.
Lori?
Any further questions?
Just to follow. So basically, all these documents and everything's about cost is liens. I mean, these people that have to understand, they all have liens, and then, you know, you have to track it down, because it's probably going to be paid for. I think $11,000 is high on a connection.
Oh, yeah, it is.
No, I understand.
Well, abandonment, there's some more.
There's some, yeah, we have to abandon every well as part of it.
But part of the problem is for the people, the individuals, and they still have the right to opt out, get their own contractor.
Correct.
And do it under code, so they can do that.
They don't have to be part of the loan program at all, they can take cash up.
I would make sure that you got copper, not plastic. If it freezes up there, you never get the thing thaw it out, you know.
Well, part of what we talked to the water company about is to do curbside meter pits, and then the
Right.
people can buy the linebacker, which covers it from the meter pit into the house, in case something freezes.
All right, so they can do that, that's an
So
extra.
And that's really a reasonable cost.
We're looking at 4,000,009.
That's the total.
4,000,004 from a loan, and 500,000 from a grant, if it comes, a steep grant if it comes through.
And Connecticut Water money would come off of that as well.
You're still gonna have to appropriate the entire amount.
We are going to appropriate the 4,000,009.
Yes,
Right.
like anything else, and then anything that comes back against that will be covered. Just, we'll have those numbers, hopefully.
When?
Because the Connecticut Water Company is tied up with Pura, they're gonna give us an estimate based on a per property cost that they feel will be.
They should give us a number and then let Pura deny it, and we'll go
Well,
lock
they
Pura.
have, well, that's the problem. They don't wanna give us a number and then we go, oh, that's great, and then have Pura deny it. So what they wanna
They can
do,
put a condition.
what they wanna do, and listen, it's not an easy process, to be honest with you. We sit and listen to this, and Bruce and I sit in meetings and go through this. They are the ones that have come to us and given us a number based on the way they feel Pura will react. But they still have to go to Pura. So here's the deal. Like I said, it's all based on new legislation that hasn't been tried anywhere, number one. So their normal contribution would be a couple $100,000. The new legislation allows them to do something totally different, which substantially increases that. But nobody has gone through the process with Pura yet. So they are, as much as they are talking to us, they still want to be careful and not do anything that's going to upset that process.
But normally, any utility is about not putting us at a disadvantage. This is putting us at an advantage.
Well,
And I
you know what I
think,
can do? I can guarantee they'll give you 200,000, if that's what you want to know.
no, I'm just saying that we can go, we're citizens, we have the right to go before Pura. In fact, there'll be hearings. And I suggest we go up to those.
I don't know if there's hearings on this. 'cause
There's hearings, there's a docket, there'll be a docket on this, and they'll
I don't think there is. I think it's a process you go through for approval for Pura. I don't think there'll be a I don't know. I'll get you whatever information they give us.
All right, well,
But I'm saying, they have a procedure they are following based on the legislation that was recently passed. Not been used in the state before. Guilford's going through the same thing.
But they like to pay as little as possible. But finally, let me just say this finally. Whatever we're doing here on this deal, as we go through the rest of the town, this is water, but if we have to have sewer someplace, we are setting some precedents. And now are we saying, if you have the sewer down one place, because if you look at most sewering that's taken place in the last 50 years, they've had a sewer district. And what we're doing now is by a town-wide application here, we open ourselves up to, it's one thing to think about the poor people up, and I do sympathize with that. But you know what, the person just built a $10 million house down there, I don't feel that much sympathy for it. That they can't pay a tax for the sewer, that they write through it yourself. I'm just concerned that the lawyers and the legal and the precedent, especially on those kinds of things, because look, I would do everything possible to help the people up there afford this and fund it, even if you had to do a zero.
You did offer to buy all their homes once, if I remember correctly.
Well, you know, listen,
I think we have to be careful which regulations are cited where, and we should probably even add some of that to the policy. I think that's a very, because you're right, people will make the parallel, and even I see the parallel, we're doing it too, but I think we have to make sure people understand that it's not exactly the same.
It's never been done anywhere like
And
that.
that's,
No, it hasn't.
right, I think that's the difference.
Absolutely.
When you meet with the people in the area, like
Sure,
this area,
public utility.
do they know the wells are compliant or uncompliant?
I'm sorry,
Do
say
they
it
know,
again, Jack.
the people who live in the area know that the wells are compliant or not compliant?
The lots are not
The ones
compliant,
that, the
so-
ones who, no,
When
are
the
they
water-
drinking water that's not compliant?
Yeah, they
Do they
contact them?
Brad has to-
Right.
Do they know it's, has anybody told them it's contaminated?
Yeah, the health department has that responsibility.
The other.
They're aware. Most of the people I talk to are very much aware of the issues that are up in that area.
Is there any
It's
way?
a lot, the wells, some of the wells are tested bad, but it's really the lots that
At
are
this
not
point right now,
compliant,
because we're not doing it.
not the wells.
And the last thing, this is my last thing, is everybody's aware of the political reality, that's all I'm saying. Any other questions for this? And by the way, we do appreciate the hard work. I've been to so many meetings.
Just one final curious question. How many shower wells are there?
I don't know how many, there are some, I
They're
don't know,
mostly
I'll find that.
drilled. We do have,
There- Yeah.
Probably down low, is it? Because those wells are,
Yeah, you wouldn't want to drink that.
well,
The Connecticut Water Company made it clear that they're very, very willing to be a partner in this. And when we have public information meetings or public hearings with the people that this is going to be done for, they're more than willing to be there, be part of that, to answer questions, to help people.
Are you having a meeting the 27th like that? Is that?
The 27th is a regular meeting.
yeah, it's our regular meeting, and the water company's been invited. I don't know, were you asking whether or not the water company's going to be present?
I'm asking if it's something that's worth videoing, is what I'm asking.
everything's worth video.
Yeah.
You never know.
You want a video?
You get bored pretty quick.
Might come, you know, come back.
Hey,
No.
the important thing,
Oh, I thought that was the intention.
the important thing, and Kirk said, I think the cost benefit analysis will sell it. That's what you need.
Yep. So you'll see in that program where we list a lot of pros. I think being able to hang a number on those pros will make that, $900 plus a year seem a little more palatable. One of the biggest costs is the well pump replacement, which many of us have been a part of, and it doesn't happen on a regular basis. It happens when you least expect it. Folks up there have had to deal with that, I know, because seeing multiple wells being drilled on their property. Those are some of the biggies. And then being able to put a number, I don't know how to get it yet, but we're working on it, to put a number on what hydrants, the benefit of hydrants to them, and,
You gotta be within 500 feet, the insurance drops down.
well, this is gonna be, you'll be within 500 feet of a bunch of folks.
Yeah, Mike Quacko could probably tell you that, just call him and ask him.
If I may add on the public safety end of it, we've been involved with this water main project since the thought process came about. This impacts a large area of our non-hydrant district as it exists. So on the flip side of it, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings that'll come off of our anticipated water supply project, which some of you are already aware of. So it's a huge benefit to us, and unfortunately, the value on an annual basis for the cost savings for insurance is very minuscule when you compare it to a time loss when you have an actual fire. So it's great to look at those numbers, but I bet you hydrant versus not hydrant, some of those houses, maybe they're gonna save $66 a year. Just a guess, from speaking to somebody that went from one range to another. It's a question we can ask Mike. But that's a small number when you look at the overall potential for the time savings for me with the fire department when I had guaranteed water versus an unknown.
And what was the project that you were talking about, the water project?
The tanks around the town.
Tanks around town to give us adequate water supply for areas that we don't have any water at all.
So will there be any relief from that project by doing this?
Absolutely.
So how much?
We're looking at three
Hundreds of
sites.
thousands of dollars.
So I mean, I think you need that in your numbers.
You mentioned, young lady, you mentioned some grants that might be available. Have we gone after them?
The steep grant the town has applied for this year.
That's the only one, the steep grant?
The steep grant is the only one I think that we're eligible for. The other one is under the Clean Water Fund,
Yeah.
sorry, the drinking water state revolving fund
Yeah.
through BPH. Depending on the budget that they get every year, they are sometimes able to offer grant subsidy money. Last year they were. They don't know about the coming fiscal year. They don't really know until the budgets are finalized. It's already partway through the fiscal year when they actually know.
So,
We're in line for them if it comes in, and it would just come off the top. We purposely haven't been showing them because they're not guaranteed, and we don't even know what the number would be, but it's a possibility.
but the $4 million is assured to us from the state.
The loan amount, yes.
The loan amount.
Yes, right, the
The
loan
low
is.
interest loan.
Right.
So I'd like to thank Matt.
Interesting. State's bankrupt and they don't know what money.
Well, thank you, Matt, Christine, Al, Laura, for coming in, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you folks for having us.
Thank you for your time.
Come in.
You'll come,
That
yeah.
was pretty easy for you this time.
Just had that easy problem when they solved it, and I came back prepared when we first cited it.
Would've
been a lot cheaper,
Cheaper than everything is
I think my mother had sewer money for 7 days. My mother had money set aside for the sewers in the 70s.
Thank you.
It was voted down then, and we voted
Because
down.
we had a room by a fire truck.
It's so.
Fire truck.
Okay.
Which we had.
And there's no reference to that.
What's the state,
Do we need to make any recommendations based on that? No.
I was
So
gonna say.
selectmen wanted something.
Just not there.
Selectmen wanted something from us.
No, there was not.
I checked the agenda. Not on the
Well, I asked for
They did,
Yeah.
they did want something.
Well, I said,
Well, then tell Bruce to ask us.
He said,
Bruce is here.
what the cost benefit analysis.
I didn't.
You're still gonna, you gotta realize, no matter what you do for cost benefit analysis, legally, you can only come up with so much.
we're trying to sell it to the homeowner.
Okay.
No matter how you spend it.
Okay,
Yeah, my niece was.
Any girls in there? I can't see you.
Like a thousand.
Okay, guys.
The water.
The problem here, guys, finance.
Okay, here's a single thing that's.
Guys, the manager goes.
That's good.